Yes, I'm Sandra Crozier, and this is actually an essay I wrote. You can actually find this on the web as the Spartan Opinion, and it's called Motherhood Memories. With my belly protruding and sweat running down my back, I boarded the sardine packed E train on Fifth Avenue, New York City. This was mid-July of 2006. I was 6 months pregnant, but I looked more like 9 months. I canvassed the train for an empty seat, and there were none available. When we pulled out of the station, I held on tight to an empty space on the silver pole, dipping my legs, and swayed in the direction of our destination. Even though I worked in the office and sat down all day, the weight of my first daughter made my legs wobble. A woman of Jamaican descent noticed me and offered her seat. I was very grateful. I sat down next to a man reading a newspaper, and across from me was a man just staring into space. I thought to myself, chivalry is dead. I'm not old-fashioned, but I do believe that someone, it doesn't matter if you're a male or female, should offer their seat to the elderly, disabled, a person with a young child, or an expected mother. This is the humane thing to do. But instead of me griping about these men on my way home, I decided to enjoy the comfort of sitting down and rubbing my belly. I still was in disbelief that I was pregnant. A year prior, my left ovary was removed because the cyst mangled so badly that there was no hope for survival. Before this, I thought I was barren because most women my age had their children when they were teenagers or 20-something, and even in their 30s. But I had just turned 38 and was experiencing the pregnancy of my first child. I felt a little long in the tooth for this new role and loss. 3 months later, when I had my daughter via emergency C-section because I did not dilate, the 10-week Lamaze class was a complete waste. I felt even more lost. I couldn't get the most natural thing a mother could do for a baby, breastfeed right. During my pregnancy, I schooled myself by reading the complete book of breastfeeding. I thought I was doing everything right, but my daughter still refused to nurse. When I left the hospital, I was so engorged that I looked like I had 2 torpedoes in my bra. I thought the problem was that my door was not latched on properly, and also I blamed the nurses because I felt that they were too quick to give my daughter the bottle when I was so adamant about breastfeeding. A couple of days later, when I went back to the hospital for my daughter's first checkup, I requested to see the lactation nurse to get to the bottom of this. The lactation nurse confirmed that my daughter was latched on correctly, but it looked like she was drinking the milk begrudgingly. My poor baby was probably intimidated by my dwellings of mass destruction. I decided not to traumatize her any longer and started expressing my milk. Well, expressing lasted about a month and a half because I was so drained, no pun intended, and stressed about my new role as a mom and my pending move to my 1-bedroom apartment in the inner city to a house in suburbia that I didn't pump every 2 hours like I was supposed to. So I dried up like day-old munchkins. After squeezing what little milk I had and mixing it with infant milk, I deemed myself a bad mother. I reached out for help from people around me who had children, but they were all from the old school. They couldn't understand why, when my daughter was born, she had to sleep on her back and not her stomach to avoid the risk of cysts, or that a baby had to wait until they were 4 months old before they ate solids, instead of calming a colicky baby with a little bit of rice cereal in their formula. I had to admit, after several weeks of rocking my daughter to sleep in the rocker and suffering from sleep deprivation, I did succumb to giving her a little cereal. She didn't catch on too well and started to choke. I felt guilty and regressed back to rocking her to sleep. With little sleep, running back and forth to the pediatrician for well visits, and my decision to be a stay-at-home mom, I semi-adjusted to motherhood in a little over a year. During this time, I took a break from writing, reading, except children's books, and anything else that wasn't associated with being a good mother. I thought I finally had this mother thing down, but there's always a loophole in everything. I was pregnant again. I thought, I'm going to have to start this whole thing all over again. My first pregnancy was full of nausea, comatose, and excessive weight. I gained around 60 pounds with my first daughter. I thought about another C-section and the recovery time. I wasn't too happy about this, but as my pregnancy progressed, I felt the comfort in my youngest daughter's aggressive kicks. I read in What to Expect When You're Expecting about the powerful kicks one feels. When I was pregnant the first time, I was worried that there was something wrong because my first daughter didn't kick me, only punched me. But I realized that my first daughter was more like a Muhammad Ali, while my second daughter was a Jet Li. I also elected to have another C-section and feared that I would not die like this time either. Plus, I heard horror stories about being ripped from a natural childbirth. To me, having a straight incision was better than having a jagged rip. As the months passed, it was difficult taking care of two very small children. My elder daughter was still not walking, while my younger had an issue with spitting up and was on an every 2-hour nursing schedule. I had to run to the gastrointernist to make sure she did not have a digestive problem, which she didn't. Yes, my youngest took to nursing the moment she was born and didn't want to stop. I tried to wean her off after the mandatory year, but she lingered on until she was almost 18 months. She knew her time was up because every time she nursed, I heard a devilish giggle and saw a sly grin of the Cheshire Cat. What saved me from being permanently named Elsie the Cow was that I needed to have some dental work done. So I worked hard trying to wean her off. After about 3 months, I finally weaned her down to 2 feedings, morning and night. When I finally cut her off completely, she took a sippy cup and went about her business. Now my daughters are 2.5 and 41 months. I watch them play, fight, and talk to one another. My elder daughter is playing the role of the bossy big sister with a mind of her own. She prefers pooping in a pool of training pants instead of the toilet. Meanwhile, my younger daughter can be the sweet mama's girl, caressing my face as she did when she was nursing. Or she could be the queen of I'm not, meaning she's not going to say sorry when she hits her sister, or she's not going to stop doing something that she's not supposed to do. But as they quickly turn into my big girls, I can't help but remember those times when we were one. Those times when we shared everything. Those times I will miss. Those times that I could never get back.
And Sandra, I think unusually you have the inspiration from the worker here today.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
You had to, right here.
Yeah.
She's trying now,
Come on, let's
And Dad probably taking pictures. You troops into the right here.